Hey everybody, welcome to Eagles Game Plan presented by Toyota. And you know it, this year the Eagles, they've been banged up, a lot of injuries. They've used the most starters in the NFL, but they're getting healthier. With more on that, here is Tape Study presented by Chickies and Pete's with our own Fran Duffy.
Well, thanks, John. And today I want to focus in on this Eagles offense and really the guys that are coming back into the fold for their stretch run for these final 8 games. Just this past week, we saw Jason Peters, Jalen Reagor, Dallas Goedert come back to the field. Miles Sanders, Lane Johnson, very close to returning. Left guard Isaac Seumalo on the way back as well. So I think when you look at this offense, Zach Ertz as well on the way back. So a lot of big-time players coming back or just returning now to this Eagles offense. I think it could be big. And for this segment, I wanted to focus in on 2 of those pass catchers, Jalen Reagor and Dallas Goedert. We got to see both guys in action this past Sunday night against the Dallas Cowboys. And to me, what that creates is more layup throws, more easy completions for quarterback Carson Wentz. And for an example of that, I wanted to just take a look early on. This is Jalen Reagor, his first touch of the night. And you're going to see him lined up at the Z receiver position. He comes in motion, real creative kind of motion here where now he looks like he's going to be going back the other way, but instead he kind of spins out of this and comes back to the flat. So it actually goes up in the box score as a running play, but it's just an easy completion for Carson Wentz. They pick up a handful of yards on first down, and that's what you're hoping for is easy completions. You go here to a little bit later in the game, this time third quarter. Here's Jalen Reagor again as the Z receiver, the movement receiver. All he's doing is running across the formation and running right to the flat. Again, easy completion. He makes that first man miss, sprints for the pylon, gets the first down on second and medium. That's what you're looking for this offense, the way to try and generate some nice chunk plays in those kind of situations. And even when you get down into the red zone, that's where Jalen Reagor can be effective as well. This is his first career touchdown this past week against Dallas. Again, he comes in short motion, lines up right here as a wing, and then you just see him sprint and take off for the pylon. A little bit of a pick play here with Greg Ward. That's exactly what you're looking for. Nice, easy completion for Carson Wentz. It's a good way to kind of get him rolling, get him comfortable. You use all of these different pieces in different ways, and it really helps to build the confidence of everybody in that offensive operation. So I'm really excited, not just for the big plays down the field with Jalen Reagor, but for these small chunk plays as well, because they really start to add up and really create a sense of calm for that offense in the pass game. And then you get to Dallas Goedert, and I've said before on the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast, but when you look at all of those injuries going back to the summer, really the injury to Brandon Brooks and the injury to Dallas Goedert, I think have been the most pivotal for this team in terms of having the biggest impact. And you might say, well, Brandon Brooks, an elite player, and he is. He's one of the best guards in the NFL, if not the best. But I think when you look at Goedert and the impact that he can have as a blocker in the run game and as a pass catcher, you really start to see the impact he can have. And I thought we saw that this past Sunday night against Dallas. Again, it's about creating easy completions. And you get here in the fringe area, right outside the 30-yard line. The Eagles have the football. It's an empty set. You're going to get one of those jet motion plays in the backfield. That's going to take the eyes of the linebacker. You see exactly where he's looking. And now you've got the athleticism of Dallas Goedert running in the middle of the field, and he's wide open here for Carson Wentz. Again, easy completions, right? That's what you're trying to do. When you get more speed on the field with Reagor, with Goedert, that's going to create opportunities for everybody. And I thought you saw that in chunks on Sunday night against the Dallas Cowboys. Then the other aspect of Dallas Goedert, as I mentioned, it's about not just the pass game, but the run game as well. And he's one of the best blocking tight ends in the league. You usually don't say that about guys with his athletic skill set, but it's absolutely true, particularly on the backside of plays. You can really see him doing work against defensive ends and linebackers. And this one, no different. Watch him here on the backside defensive end on this run play. He takes Randy Gregory for a ride. He should have charged him admission for a bus token for that play. You see him take him for a ride, work him downfield. Boston Scott puts his foot in the ground and goes 9 yards. So you get the addition of Jalen Reagor. You get the addition of Dallas Goedert. I think with this Eagles offense starting to get healthy at the right time, Miles Sanders, Lane Johnson, Zach Ertz, all these guys making their way back into the lineup could pay dividends for this team in the second half.
Eagles Game Plan is brought to you by your local Tri-State Toyota dealers, proud automotive partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. NovaCare Rehabilitation, the power of physical therapy. Pepsi, your new official soft drink of your Philadelphia Eagles. And by the Pennsylvania Lottery, Pick up your Eagles Fast Play ticket today.
All week they've been talking about, can we get our season back, man? Can we turn our season around, man? Tonight we got to answer that question, make sure they know loud and clear, man. Games like this go down in history. Hey, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's go, man. Back on the attack. We do this. Crank it back up. Oh, yeah. Come down to how bad we want it, dog. It come down to this play. Come on. How bad we want it. Ball game. Ball game.
All right, that is cool to hear Rodney McLeod mic'd up against the Giants and against the Cowboys. Carson Wentz had 4 turnovers, and because of the Eagles' defense, the Cowboys were only able to get 3 points off of them, and really they closed out the game with Rodney McLeod's touchdown. Ike Reese, how impressive has Rodney been, the defense been, with those situations?
Oh, he's been big time over the last couple of weeks. I mean, you need guys that can have the ability to take the ball away from the opposing team, and that's what Rodney McLeod has shown up at time and time again this year from his free safety position. And so you look at him here on this play. I like what Jim Schwartz has done the last couple of weeks. He's given these young quarterbacks a lot to think about at the line of scrimmage. Now, we know he likes to give the double-A blitz look when you have your linebackers up there. You got Duke Riley and you got TJ Edwards lined up in the A gap along with your 4 defensive linemen. Now, the Cowboys feel like, okay, we're prepared for this. We know how we're going to pick this up. They check the protection. They're going to go man. But at the last second, and this is the new wrinkle, Jim Schwartz had not shown this yet in this defense. This is the new wrinkle he added to this double A gap look is Rodney McLeod coming up late. And I think that spooks the center and the quarterback. And at the snap of the ball, you're going to see, honestly, Dallas has enough people to pick up this. But because there's confusion with the center, he decides he's going to pick up Rodney McLeod. That frees TJ Edwards to get to the quarterback here, and Ben DiNucci knocked the ball loose. It was a huge moment in the game. Scoop and score from Rodney McLeod. He's been Johnny on the spot around the football this year. That's what you need. This touchdown obviously was the game-winning touchdown to seal this victory for the Eagles over the Cowboys. I really like what Jim Schwartz has done with the defense, adding new wrinkles to some of his older looks. And this one against the Cowboys was something for the first time they had shown on tape, and it turned out big for them.
One of the things I wanted to talk about as the Eagles have reached the halfway point of their season is their defense. And we know that Jim Schwartz, by nature, is not a high percentage blitz defensive coordinator. Sure, there are times he will do that, as we know. But for the most part, he is not big on sending a high frequency of pressure. But that doesn't mean you don't show pressure front looks, because what pressure front looks do is it dictates pass protection. And keep one thing in mind, offenses cannot change their pass protection rules in the middle of a play. And there's a couple of really good examples of that throughout the first half of this season. Let's go to the Cincinnati game, and I want to show you here exactly what I'm talking about. Notice there's a 6-man defensive front here with 2 linebackers, Nate Gary and Duke Riley, in the A gaps. So what Joe Burrow does is he brings the tight end in because Burrow is in an empty set. So he knows that 5 can't block 6. So he brings the tight end in to make it 6-on-6. So what happens here? The Eagles end up dropping out the 2 A-gap linebackers, but you get a matchup that you want. You get Derek Barnett on the tight end. Burrow feels like he's protected, but Barnett wins inside immediately, and he's able to sack Burrow. So there's a perfect example where a front alignment dictated a protection that the Eagles were able to exploit. Now let's take a look again at a 6-man front, this time against the Giants. Now, what's really important on this play is the overall defensive look. This has a zero coverage look to it. There's no safety in the middle of the field. So Daniel Jones, the Giants quarterback, sees that. So what does that tell him? He needs to pick up his tempo and get rid of the ball quickly because he's also in an empty set. So you have 6 rushers now in what looks like 0. What happens here? The Eagles drop out the 2 A-gap linebackers, but Jones still sees this as 0 and throws the ball quick to Evan Ingram. And Ingram does not really want to get in the middle of the field because he sees a linebacker right there. So the result of this is an interception by Jalen Mills. So these are really good examples of 4-man pressures now, but they started with a 6-man pressure front. And once they got a sack, the second one, they got an interception.
All right, Jim Schwartz doesn't normally blitz a whole lot, but he came after Ben DiNucci, and he goes after the young quarterbacks he's faced this year. All right, Ike Reese, I know you've done some self-scouting on your work here on Eagles Game Plan. Now do some scouting on the Eagles defense for the second half. Any changes that you think they have to make going forward?
I wouldn't make too many changes, John and Mike. I like what the defense has shown us over the last month. They're one of the best defensive lines in all of football. They're 3rd in the league in sacks. They're 3rd in the league in pressures. They're going to get healthier on the back end. That's going to allow Jim Schwartz to do some things coverage-wise. But the strength of this defense is that defensive line. And that's what's been carrying this team, and that's what's going to carry them down the stretch. I like what I'm seeing from the guys up front, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, guys like Josh Sweat coming into their own. This defense is just going to get better the second half of the season as long as they continue to get healthy and that defensive line continues to be the strength of the unit.
Yeah, that defensive line has to be the engine. Mike Quick, I asked you for your most impressive player on offense. How about on defense, who has impressed you the most?
Well, Ike's already mentioned the name. It's clearly Brandon Graham. Ike mentioned that the Eagles are 3rd in the league in sacks. Well, Brandon Graham leads that team in sacks. He has 7. He leads the team in quarterback pressures. He leads the team in tackles for losses. BG is playing out of his mind. Now, he's always said that he wanted to have a double-digit sack year. Well, I think this is the year. He's at 7 now with 8 games remaining. And BG has this infectious energy that I think just goes down the line. He really brings it each and every week. He has a young attitude. It almost goes back to watching guys play in high school when they're so excited about playing the game. He has that at this late age in his career, and he's really helped this defense with that energy.
Hey, welcome back to Eagles Game Plan presented by Toyota. The Eagles, of course, on their bye week, and no matter what happens in the division this weekend, the Eagles will still be in first place. That's the good news, but they still have a losing record. So let's jump into what they need to do better in the second half of the season. I am joined by Ike Reese and Mike Quick, and let's start with you, Mike Quick, about the quarterback Carson Wentz. He leads the NFL with 16 turnovers, 12 interceptions. That's the most of any quarterback. And he's putting the team in precarious situations with these turnovers. How can he work on cutting these down, Mike?
Well, when you look at his play, I think you have to begin with his decision making, and it just hasn't been good. If you watch this play, John, this is a play where he's going to get max protection. It's a 2-man route. You've got a crosser going over the middle. You've got a clear out route on the outside. And they do a nice job of protecting him. But, of course, he can't throw the route to either receiver. He's flushed out to his left side. And right away, he has to realize that he has nothing. The decision here should be to throw away the football. He holds on to the ball. It creates a sack. It creates a fumble. And it puts the defense now in a tough situation. And, you know, we've seen too much of that. The worst quarterback rating of all quarterbacks in the National Football League. That's the type of thing that needs to be cleaned up. Less turnovers, better decision making by the quarterback. I think it'll lead to more wins and a better football team.
He can't put his team in difficult positions and have them time after time overcome those. You know, that first turnover, you know, they weren't hurt by it because Brandon Graham was able to make a big play and cause a fumble. But Carson Wentz has to realize that he has to be part of the solution and not part of the problem.
And his turnovers have put the defense in a precarious situation. The Birds' defense has faced more opponents' drives starting in their territory by far than any team in the NFL. All the players, all the coaches are going to be doing self-scouting this week on the bye week. Here's Greg Cosell on that.
John, one of the main things coaches do during a bye week is they self-scout. And I think you'll really see a lot of that with Doug Peterson and his offensive staff. Because there's no question the Eagles' offense has been up and down this year. Some really good moments and some other moments that we wish were a lot better. So they will self-scout and see how they can get better when they pick up with the Giants after the bye. Now, something really struck me watching the Cowboys game that we saw a lot of and hadn't seen anywhere near that much of in the 7 games prior. And that was the use of motion and shifting. We know now that the NFL is a league where motion and shifting is used by most every offense. The Eagles have been near the bottom of the league in terms of motion and shift percentage, but they did a lot of it against the Dallas Cowboys. In that game, Boston Scott had 15 rushes. On 11 of those 15 rushes, the Eagles used motion or shifting to create what they hoped was an advantage. Now, we know the Cowboys have struggled with motion and their eye discipline, particularly with their linebackers all season. So we don't know if it's just specific to the Cowboys or something the Eagles will do going forward. But what you're going to see here is Greg Ward, who's aligned to the boundary side of the formation. He will motion across the formation, jet sweep action to the field. And you're going to see the impact that that has on the 2 linebackers, Van Der Esch and Jalen Smith. It grabs their eyes. They react to it. And then what do the Eagles do off of this? They go with an outside zone run with Boston Scott to the boundary side. So Ward goes from the boundary to the field, the run goes to the boundary, and the Eagles start off the game with a 19-yard run. This particular concept that we just saw with Boston Scott, they ran 4 or 5 times the exact same play. So this is something that was effective for the Eagles against the Cowboys. I think it is something we're likely to see more of when the Eagles return from the bye in a couple of weeks.
All right, so a lot more motion there, as Greg Cassell points out. And you've seen over the last couple of years, Eagles have made a run to make the playoffs. It seems Doug Peterson does some self-scouting during the bye weeks or later on in the season, figures out what the offense does really well. So, Mike, I'll start with you. Who are you most looking forward to on offense this second half of the season?
Well, I first will look at the receivers, and what I've seen out of Travis Fulgham, I think we're going to get that. I think he's going to be consistent. But what I'm most excited about is Jalen Reagor's back and healthy now, and all the things that he brings to this offense. You know, Greg talks about motion. Well, that's the guy that they're going to use in motion a lot, and he can do a lot of the jet sweeps, the screen game. He can get vertical on defenses. He can do so many things, and that's one of the reasons they drafted him in the first round, because of his versatility. With him healthy now, with Travis Fulgham playing the way he's playing, I'm excited to see the addition of what Reagor can bring to this offense.
Yeah, and he can attack all 3 levels of the defense. He's got that yards after the catch ability. Ike Reese, how about you? Who are you looking forward to?
Well, I'm looking forward to Miles Sanders returning to the lineup. I mean, hell, Carson Wentz ought to be looking forward to it. Doug Peterson ought to be looking forward to it as well, because I think it brings balance to the offense. When I think back to last year when this team took off in the second half, particularly down the stretch, Miles Sanders was a big focal point of this offense. I think it just brings a totally different element to this offense, and we may finally, along with a guy like Jalen Reagor in the lineup, we may finally get that explosive offense that these coaches were anticipating at the beginning of the season. Miles Sanders helps you get to that point, running the football and catching it out of the backfield.
All right, so your Eagles will be in first place no matter what after this weekend. They have the Giants coming up. A soft landing coming out of the bye week. Hopefully they can start to stack some wins. I am John Clark. Thanks for watching this bye week edition of Eagles Game Plan presented by Toyota. We'll see you next week. Eagles Game Plan is brought to you by your local Tri-State Toyota dealers, proud automotive partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. NovaCare Rehabilitation, the power of physical therapy. Pepsi, your new official soft drink of your Philadelphia Eagles. And by the Pennsylvania Lottery. Pick up your Eagles Fast Play ticket today.